Okay, let's start the brand new class. So yesterday we have learned parameterization, like how you can declare parameterization from your XML, right? TestNG XML. So today we're going to learn another way to declare your parameterization in a class level through a data provider annotation. That's the part of parameterization. So that's the second option. Okay. So assume that you have multiple your application accept multiple multi-set of login or authentication username and password. It accepts, right? A lot of times you'll see in an application you have you can log into Google, you can log into Facebook, you can log into probably NetSuite. Those are different options. So you can use any one of the credential and you can log in. So your application may have a multiple it may set accept the multiple sets of login username and password. So that's one example. It could be anything. So in runtime you wanna pass multi sets of username and password, and you want to check your your applications. That's make sure that those are all are working in terms of different sets of username and password. And you want to pass, you want to use the data provider example. That's your wish. You want to use the data provider. So data provider annotation is a part of TestNG, and it's allow you to enter multi sets of data. It's not data. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be only like username and password. It could be any types of data. So multi sets of data. It's allow you to enter in a class in a specific method. In a class in a specific method. Okay. So any methods you can do, but that should be in the same class. That's the bottom line. So how to declare? Example, remember in our day 3 class we have you can see my screen, right guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In our day 3 in our day 3, so assume that this is our class, since this is started with the test. Okay, in test, forget about that part. So so this is a test class. It's the method, its method name is multi-car login. Okay, assume that this part is missing, nothing is up there, but it's going to be the same like we did the other one, when you declare call those attribute from XML file to your specific method in a class. So but this parameter is I will assume that there is no parameter. Okay, there's nothing up here, and then there is some whatever you want to do. This is the code of your method. So I will come a little bit later up here. So assume that in this method you are going to pass multi sets of username and password. Multi sets of username password. Okay, so you want to apply a data provider. You want to apply a data provider where we'll have all of your data, like multi sets of username and password, and from there you want to apply in this method. So to do this, first of all you have to create a separate method. You have to create a separate method where you are going to initialize all the data, and from there that method you are going to call that method in the method you are in your test method. Okay, so the first you are going to create a method to hold or to initialize the data you are going to enter. So to do this, I create a method. It's called public get data. This is the method name, get data, and I put a return type method. This is a method return type. I put a method return type two-dimensional object class. It's two-dimensional array. We remember the two-dimensional array, right? So its return type is a two-dimensional. Two-dimensional, it means it's one is row, another one is column. If you have a multi columns data, multi sets of data where you have a more than one column, then you can declare a multi-array to store all this data. And object, it's another Java class where it can hold multi types of multi-dimensional arrays data. So this is the whole return type, like integer, say a string, whatever we used to do. This is a multi. So we're saying we're declaring a method. That's method, like whatever the name you give, I give a name. It's a get data method. This is just a name, a method name. But the return type is the important, because I'm saying this method will hold some two-dimensional data. Okay, and after you declare, you have to use at the rate DataProvider annotation. At the rate DataProvider annotation, this is the must, because this is the annotation. It comes from TestNG, and this is the part of parameterization in a class level. So now we are going to, let's, before we, let me give you just one recap about how the multi-dimensional work. I believe that you can remember that, right? Where is that? Let's see. Just give me a sec. So remember, it's a multi-dimensional array. So what does it does, right? Multi-dimensional array, it means, say you will have a, say you name it your array is your array name, and this is a multi-dimensional array, right? You declare, say whatever the value is fine, so probably you say integer. So this is a two-dimensional array, we can say, by seeing this. No, so how it's really happens, so this is row, this is allocated for row, and this is allocated for column, right? And how the data is stored when you initialize or store the data in two-dimensional. So this is all a row, right? This is all a row. This is all a row, right? And this is 0th row, started with the 0, and this is 1th row, this is 2 row. So that means you have a, if you have a 3 row, if your value is 3 over here, your structure will be like this. And similarly your column, say this is your first column and this is your second column, so 0th column and second column, right? So it means you have a 2 column, so your column value would be 2. So if you have an array, multi-dimensional array, its structure is 3 2, it means your behind the scene your memory will allocated space like this, and then whatever the value over here, this is the location of this place. It's 0th row, 0th column. Say example, you have a example, whatever number, say 1, and then 0th row 1 column is 2, then 1th row 0th column, so 5, then 7, 1th row 1th column, then 2th row 0th column, right? 9, and then 10, right? So 1 and 2, this is the value of 0th row, 5 and 7 is the value of 1th row, and 9 and 10 is the value of 2 rows. But every row, every space, when you get the data together, so if I want to fetch the data like 1, then I have to pull the data, the index number would be 0 0, right? Your column 0, your row 0, and your column 0. So 0th row 0th column equals to, you will able to fetch the value which is 1, right? So similarly, if I go here, no, I can't. Anyways, so now come to here. So we're saying we have, say assume that we have three different sets of data, three different sets of combination of username and password. So three sets, it means your row is, so your row would be 3, and how many column? Your column would be 2. If it's a 3 sets and 2 column, I said like this is the first column, it's a username, this is a username and password. So second column, so first column will hold username and second column will hold password value. So column is 2 and 3 sets, this means 3 different sets of username password. Okay, it's up to you. So we're assuming that we have to pass 3 different sets of username and password. So your username and password is going to be held in different column for each row, each set. So this will be, so 0th set, it means this is your first set, and this is the second set, right? And this is a third set. So that's a 0, 1, 2, and 0, 1 is your holding your value. Okay, so now first, since this object is the class, object is a class which is the 2-dimensional class. Okay, 2-dimensional array object is a free class, you know, so which can hold 2-dimensional array. So first we have to initialize this array with the data. So initialize, we create an object of this class. You know, if you have a class in Java, we can create an object if it's a public class, right? This is a public class, so we create an object of this class. So we said a new to initialize. The reason why it's initialize, new object, and then we said since we have a 3 sets of data, so you know this is for row is a 3 sets, so this is 3 and this is a column. So your column value would be username password, so it's a 2 sets of your column for each combination. So this is 2, that's why I initialize, and then you put this object in a data variable, it's another variable, you know, and then you return that would be the same, your class same, right? We have seen it in a Java class that where, you know, how we can create an object of a class. So this is the creating object a class and puts in a variable, and it's a return type with the same class name, right? This is the same class. As I said it, create an object of 2-dimensional array. Now it's time to initialize. So first is, you know, 0th row. So 0th row, what do you have? 0th row, you have 0, the data would be in 0th row. Data would be 0th row. In 0th row, you will have a 2 sets of data, 0, 0 and 0, 1, right? 0, 0 for first data, and then 0, 1 is the second column, right? So that's the one I did over here. So I said over here, so since data is the variable, you know, object reference where you have the knowledge about this, you know, the object. So you know, that's why you are putting, you know, data with the, you know, and the call your 0 for the first sets of data would be 0th row, 0th column, and you initialize. Okay, say example, you initializing over here first name, you initialize over here, 0th row, 0th column, this is your first name, and then 0th row, 0th 1 column, it's your first password. Example, you know, so I just give a name. Data is like username, first username, first password, then second username, second password. Okay, so 0th row and zeroth row, zeroth column, zeroth row, one column is the first sets of data. So zeroth row, zeroth column is a, you know, your data is the first set name. Just assume that this is your data, you know, since because we don't have a real data like real username. And zeroth row, first column is the your password, first password. Okay, so this is the first sets of username and password. The second sets of data combination, one now is a one row, zeroth column. So one row because you are now moved to here, this is the second. So one row, zeroth column, and then one row, one column. That would be the second combination of your username and password. So one row, zeroth column, one row, zeroth column is the second name, second set name, and one row, one column is the second password. Similarly, third set is data. So, you know, second row, zeroth column is the username, third username, and the second row, one column is the third password. And then at the end we return this data. So it returns this data. Since this data object have the knowledge all of your information, all this information. So if we return this data, is data have the information, all three sets of username and password in this two-dimensional array. So it's returning to here. This data is when you return, you know, this is the method. So that's the natural way it works. When you return, it returns to your method name. So your method name have the knowledge about your variable object reference, and the object reference have the initialized information. So indirectly your method have the knowledge about all the information, all different sets of username and password. So now how you are going to call this method? Now this data, this method, it means this method, you know, get data, you can apply any method in this class, in this test class, in this class, any test class, test method you have, you can apply. Assume that I want to apply over here. I want to apply in this test method. So if I want to apply this test method, first after the test annotation you have to put a DataProvider equals to, because you are calling, you have to call this method first. So whatever the name of your method, how you gonna call, you're going to call, you will say DataProvider. But here is the one thing, when you call the method, you are going to write DataProvider. You see the D is lowercase, and when you create the method to hold, to initialize your value, that time you use the D uppercase. Okay, that's the you know, things people all of times make a you know, confusion, and they make a mistake. So you know, so when you call, it's going to be lower than D, and when you create that a method to hold the value, you are going to put a, you know, uppercase D with the annotation. Here you are going to say DataProvider equals to, what's the method name, you are calling this method name over here in a string, as a string. And then now how many columns you have? Two columns, right? One is a username, username, or first the name. Another one is for the password, right? For the two sets of data, in three combination sets of data, but every your actual column is two columns. For every column you are going to again, you know, create some parameterization. You are going to declare some parameterization so that those you know, data is can have a representative over here. So when you declare a parameter in your method, what do you need to, you declare a parameter is nothing, just a variable with a data type. So you are going to declare a variable like username, which will be the first, you know, first column, which will be the first column, like this one here. We said, you know, this first column is a username, representing username, and the second column is a password value. So, and both are string. So you are going to, you know, declare, you know, variable, any variable. So I said username, which is make more sense, you know, because these are value. The first column is holding the some username, and second column is holding some password. So I said username, and return type would be string, depends on your data type. Since this is all a string value, that's why it's returned to be string. And similarly for the password, it's returned to be string. So your username and password, this variable, it's holding the value from you initialize in your over here. All this username will hold will have the knowledge all the username from different sets of data. Similarly, this password will have the knowledge about all the password or second column in your this sets of data. How it's coming? It's coming from this here. It's calling your method, and so when you call this method, automatically you have to declare same sets of variable with the data, which is parameterization, as per your column in your method you have. Okay, so now, and then inside your in your method, your code, this is your code. So how are you gonna use the code? It's up to you. You call, if you call, it means this username will have the knowledge all all the usernames in different different row, right, in different column, and then this password have the knowledge all the value of your password from your data. So you can call in real life, you're going to call, and then you can you will say probably wherever you need to use this password, username and password, you will just say driver.find element by passing your locator. Then remember that we used to write dot send key, then write your username instead of you'll put the send key, and then instead of writing the actual data, you will just pass your variable. Your actual username, instead of writing actual username, you will pass this variable, and actual password, you will pass this password. Okay, and then it will automatically have all sets of username and password will be there. And but to make our example simple over here, I just printing this username and password. So it should print all sets of 3 sets of username and 3 sets of password. Since those are these variables is holding all this username and password, so it should print this first set name, first set password, second set name, second set password, all those things. Okay, so that's the way you are going to declare first your all the data in a method, and then you can call that method to any test method in the same class by calling this name using a DataProvider annotation. Is that clear? So if you run it, if you run this, let's see if I run individually. I can run, I think, individually without a. If you are, I can just go to access our XML file. Our XML file. Day 3. So day 3 now here. Day 3. So run at TestNG. So let's see in console. So if you run it, you will see, and I'm not going to go through all the outputs that I explained yesterday. So let's see in your output for the day 3 class for this specific method. So method name multi-car login, this method, and this method have this is the code. So first inside the method, it has a one statement, print statement. It's a multi-credential test for car. So here is a multi-credential test for car, and then I said I put 2 more print statement, and I pass this to parameter, this argument, right, this variable username password. So those variables supposed to have the knowledge all these sets of username password. So it means it's supposed to print first set of name, then first set of password, and then second set name, second password, third set name, third password. So you can see over here is now it's printing all this username and password, first set name, first password, and then it's after it's print one set. But remember, we had a before method. I think there is a before method over here. There's a before method. So before method gets executed every times remember that the before method is runs every times before you have any test method in the same class. So if you have a method like 5 test methods, is going to run 5 times and before. So that's why it's, this methods, this multi-car login method, it's run second time. Before it's run second time, this one is run first. Before where is the before method? Before method. So that's why this printing statement come over here. So this one is run again, and then in a second time, for the second time, this method again run. So this is the output printing statement. Then this is the second set name, second password. Again the before method ran, and then this is the again for the third time it's ran this method, third name, third password, right? And then more this method again, the before method ran again, and before it runs there is a one more method over here, test method. It's ran as it is. Okay, so that's the way you are going to declare your data by a separate method and call that method to any test method using a data provider annotation. So, and this is the part of parameterization, that you can declare in a specific class for any specific method, but its limitation is it's using this limitation of this method in this same class. Okay, so is that make sense, clear, guys?
Yeah.
Everyone? So I
Yeah.
think I didn't give you this code. Did I give you this code? Probably no for this, because it won't make sense you that time. So now in your day 3 you can add, if you want the same example you can try. So I can give you this test method as well as the data provider method too. Let me give you that in our Slack channel. Right. So you can add in your day 3, and then you can run also, or without the copy paste, just you see and type it by yourself. Okay, at home, do it by yourself, see that you understand. When you're gonna write it, it's going to be more understandable. So I put all the comments, so this is the comments, so that you can understand. This is 3 sets, 3 combination, 3 sets of username, password. Every combination consider as a row, and values of each consider the column. So 3 row, 3 and 2 columns, and that's why 3 row, 2 columns. And the explanation I already show you, the 2-dimensional array, how it works, right? And this is the initialization for the all these different sets or row. Okay, so pretty much that's all about the parameterization using TestNG. Okay, so this is very rare people use data provider, but it's a lot of times they ask an interview about the data provider. Like if they ask you the question in interview, what is parameterization in TestNG, how you can declare, that time you have to say that yes, the parameterization is a part of TestNG features, where you can declare that parameterization as a global variable in your XML file as well as in a class level. So in an XML file you can declare that parameter, all this global variable using a parameter using a parameter keyword, and in your suite level as well as in your module level. And then you can call those variable depending on where you declare. If it's a suite level, you can call anywhere, any class, any method. But if it's a module level, it's going to be only limited to any methods, any method that belongs to that module. Similarly, you can declare your data using a data provider annotation in a class level like this, and then you can call that method to any test method for the limited to the same class. Okay, just in your own language, as far you understand, explain that, and that will be good enough. Any example, you can say for data provider annotation, the multi sets of username and password, you can declare and you can call to and you can pass those data to any specific test method. Okay guys, make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so next we're going to see the new topic, the assertion. Rajiv, remember you asked one of the, I think during at the beginning of our automation, you asked like how we are going to do the compare, right? The expected versus your actual. And that time I said, well, for now you can use if condition at the end. If this is equals to this dot equals to that, then you can say inside the if the condition is true, inside you say okay, return or print pass or fail. Now that was very traditional way, but in TestNG we have a specific class, a specific features that comes with the TestNG. It's called assertion. So what is assertion? Assertion is the features of TestNG that help you to compare between your expected result with the actual result, and that's give you the result at the end, either pass or fail. Okay, so you don't have to create your separate if else condition and you write all those codes. If it's match both of them, you say pass. If it doesn't match, you say fail. You don't have to do. All you have to, those are the built-in class. It comes with a TestNG. Okay, it comes with the TestNG, and then all you have to just call those related method, and then use those method, and that those method automatically will compare that your expected versus your actual, and will, if it's a match, it will automatically say it's pass. If it's a fail, that match, it will say fail. Okay, so let's see the assertion. It's called TestNG Assertion. For TestNG Assertion, we have for documentation, I think we do have a document over here in our node. Let me double check. Yes, I believe that we have. Okay, TestNG assert and list of common assertion. Okay, yeah, we do have a documentation. Okay, we do have a documentation with example that we're going to see. So this is all our TestNG. So please read this documentation here. This is page number 33. If you go down, you will see what is TestNG assert and list of common TestNG assertion, and then from there you will find the answer as well as some of the method as well. I think so we do have also in our side automation test, I think we have a also block related with the assertion. Let me see if it's there or not. TestNG Assertion. If you go more, so here is the all example, similar type of information already here, and I think and also we have a YouTube video related with this. If you go here, this is you can see what is TestNG Assertion in automation, how it works. So it's a very well example up there. You can watch it. Probably will see. Let me go through here the documentation. So in a test, as I said, the TestNG helps us to verify the condition of the test in the middle of the test you run. Based on the TestNG assertion, we'll consider a successful test only if it's completed the test run without throwing any exception. Exception, it means without throwing any error. So in TestNG assertion, there is some methods, the popular method that they are going to use to compare. So one method is assertEqual. assertEqual, you will see. Just for now, we'll see within a few minutes. assertEquals. So assertEquals, there is a method in TestNG assertion, and it has a parameter that it expected two parameter. One is actual, another one expected. So actual, comma, expected, and both are string. And similarly, assertEqual, you can pass your actual, expected. Also, you can pass some message over here. Just send some related message for your comparison. Then assertEquals, assert another equals. You can say as equals. So it's compared between two boolean, like your actual and expected both have to be boolean, like true or false. So both value is like true, it will be match. If both values, if it is false, it will be also match, it will say pass. So both have to be same, then it will be pass. assertTrue, it's inside it only expect condition is true. You will pass some condition and it have to be true. If it's a true, it will be say it's a pass. If it's a false, it will say it's not it's not pass. Like when you have a, remember that like any radio button, and after you select the radio button and we confirm, how you confirm that this was selected, we use isSelected method, isDisplay method, remember when you did exercise. So we can, after you select, we can pass over here driver.isSelected method, and isSelected or isDisplay method return just true or false. So we can pass over here assert.assertTrue, and inside that over here driver.isSelected method. So if that button was actually selected, it's supposed to return true. If it's a true, if condition is true, then it will say your method is pass or your test is pass. If it says return false, it will say your test case is false. Okay, so as I was saying, so assertion, so those are all the methods from assertion that we're going to use to compare our expected versus actual. Okay, sometimes even a boolean we can compare below, or sometimes we can pass condition. Whatever the scenario, we can pass using any one of the method, we can compare and we can get either your test case is a pass or fail. We'll see within a minute. So there are two types of assertion in TestNG. There's two types of assertion. One is called hard assert, another one is called soft assert. Okay, hard assert, soft assert. There was an interview question, the difference between hard assert and soft assert. If you go any interview for TCS, Tata Consultancy Service, that's a lots of job. You will get an offer at Tata Consultancy Services. They are head office in Mississauga. So you will see when you're going to hunt your job, you will see it's a lot of jobs, so they offer. And most of the part at the initial interview, they will ask you the difference between hard assert and soft assert. Okay. So anyways, so two types of assert is hard assert and soft assert. So what is the difference? Mostly they both do same thing, but there is a big difference. Hard assert, so when you write a code and you use hard assert, one of the method, by the way, so all the methods are available in both types of assertion, like hard assert or soft assert. But the difference between, so any method you use and use the hard assert, that time if your methods gets your test case gets fail, like it didn't match your expected versus your actual. And if you have any code after that, if the same method, if you have any line after that assertion line, your compiler will be stuck up there. It will not move on next. Let me show you an example. I think in our day one, remember that I put a comment. There is a method. We're going to show you. We're going to use this one for this understand. So here, okay, assert. Here, let me see. Okay, import. I have to import a package. So here, I have a method. and it is a with the test annotation, and here you will understand a little bit later. So I said this is a hard assert, so it's you will use the assert and dot, then you will find all the methods available I showed on the list, like assertTrue, whatever, assertEquals, any one of them, and then you pass the value as is expected. So by intentionally I'm failing this method, because assertTrue method, if you see here, assert.assertTrue, assert.assertTrue, or assertTrue, this method expect a condition and true condition. If a condition is true, it will be passed, but I pass over here false, so it means it's not matching with the expectation, so it will be fail. I fail it intentionally. So if you have a hard assert and your assertion over here, it's fail, your test case, it means your case is failed, test case is failed. And after that, if you have any other code, in the same method, in the same test method, this is a hard assert. So in a hard assert, if your method is failed, if your assertion is failed, and you compile, and if you have any more code in the same method after that, those code will not be executed in hard assert. The reason why, in a hard assert, your compiler will be stuck on your fail. It will say, okay, this method got failed, and it will throw an exception what line it got failed, and then it will not move on the next code. It will ignore the next line, whatever the number of line you have in the same method, and if you have a more test method, it will jump to that next test method. So your code will be ignored in the same method if you use the hard assert. So that's a problem. You don't want to do this. But in soft assert, what will happen? In soft assert, it will cover, if you have a fail in your assertion, it will not throw an error. It will not throw any error over it. It will not say it's a fail. That's a problem. But the benefit is this: if you have any other code after this assertion, your code will be executed. So that's a soft assert. So the both assertion have some problem. What do you want? You want, if there is your assertion is failed, your test case is failed, you want to make sure it throw an error and it says, okay, this assertion or this test case was failed in number of that. And also, if you have any other number, any other line after the assertion, you want to execute those two. So to do this, there is another assert, a method is called all assert. At the end, you have to use all assert, and if you use that all assert, that will be covered. That will cover your both features from your hard assert and soft assert. It will throw an exception if your assertion is failed. It means your test case is failed, as well as it will cover or execute your code if there is a code after the your assertion. So let's see example. I think that's gonna be easier if I show you example. Let me go through, minimize this. I would create, and let's see what we have in exercise. Okay, exercise, I do have method. Okay, let's use over here the same exercise. Okay, here I will use some method at the red, so I will use test, and then I will say public void say soft assert. This is example for soft assert. First we'll see. Okay, so I'm giving a method name with the soft assert. It's not like you have to write the method name soft assert. It could be any method name. I'm just giving you a name, soft assert, just to understand. Okay, this is the example related to the soft assert. Soft assert. This is the method name, and then here so soft assert, it's a part of TestNG Assertion, but it comes with a separate class. Okay, it comes with a separate class. It has a separate class that you have to call, so you have to create a object of the class of softassert and then use all of the methods from there. Okay, that's the little bit different than softassert. If you use a softassert, you know, it's a part of TestNG again, but the built-in class, you know, that softassert have all the methods, all the function, you know, that class is not directly, you just call the method, is not directly usable. So to use them, you have to call that specific method, create an object of that class, and then, you know, use the object reference, call any one of the method. That's the only difference I'm going to show you. So the method name is softassert. Okay, so method name is class name is softassert. So you create an object of the class name softassert. So you will see this soft s is uppercase because this is a class that's already built in TestNG. Okay, so I'm calling that method softassert. So you have to write exactly you have to write exactly the same way that class is been. Okay, so I you know, you can see this automatically, it's detected this there is a softassert, there is a class, and I have to import a package later on. So let's create an object of the softassert class first. New, create an object of softassert. So whatever the, you know, object reference you give, so whatever you say example s, and then return type is the same class name, right? So I call softassert class. So I create, and this is the object of the softassert, and puts in a variable, it's called, this is object reference s, and the return type is the same. So I have some, you know, errors. So hover our mouse, I will import the softassert, you know, a package. Where is that? org, you can see TestNG, so it's a part of TestNG. So it will be gone. Hover your mouse again, you will say softassert. Why? Oh, sorry, I put this. Why I put this? Okay, so your softassert package already comes. So this is your object of softassert, and since this is the object reference, so this s have the knowledge of all the method inside this softassert object or softassert class, right? So I can call any one of the method. You will see if I just put s dot, and then you will see all the methods. See, there's tons of methods, like I showed earlier some of the methods, like, you know, assertEquals, you say boolean, actual boolean, expected boolean, it's to compare to boolean. assertEquals, you know, so that's another type of byte. You know, if your actual and expected is a data type is byte, you know, so, and then character, you can compare two character. If you have, you know, both expected and your actual is character, and then you can use the long. So any type of data you can, as per your data type, you can call the method to compare between your expected and your actual. Okay, so now let's see. I'm going to say let's see, let's print something. Let's say softassert method was started, and then this is the printing statement, just simple printing statement, and then I'm going to use this as the object reference dot call any method. So call any method, say I would say assertTrue. So what is the assertTrue? Because I want to fail this test, so assertTrue equals not equals, you'll see assertTrue somewhere. You can see assertTrue, it's a boolean condition, assertTrue boolean condition. Okay, I can use this one, assertTrue. Okay, so assertTrue, it's assertTrue, this is the method, and this method will have some condition inside, and it will be pass. This will say pass if your condition is true. Okay, if the condition is true, whatever you pass, so you in real life you'll pass some code and it will supposed to return some boolean value like a true. If it's a true, then your test case will be passed. But I'm intentionally going to put false to make the your test case fail. So this assert.assertTrue, this assertTrue method expect a true condition, a return would supposed to true. If it's a true, it will pass this method. Okay, this test case will be passed. But I'm saying false. So since I'm saying false, I'm returning by intentionally false. So expectation is true. So it will say, since I'm passing false, it means it will fail. It will say this test case is fail. So I'm intentionally going to fail this method, this test case. Okay, the reason why I want to see if it's a fail, how the soft assert works, So if it's a fail, let's see what happened. So let's remove these guys so that you can just see those things. Okay, so let's run it and see what's the output. It will say it says passed. It says passed the soft tester. This is your method name, and it's this method, it's pass. And over here also in report it says runs 1, failure 0. So it didn't count that even though this method was fail, this method it didn't pass. Actually in real life it didn't pass, but it's saying it's passed because we use the soft assert. And soft assert, if there is a method gets fail, it's ignored that part. The reason why it's ignored, because if you have any other code after that, say you have a sys out and say soft assert was executed. The reason why, let's save it and then run it. Now you'll see again it's the same report. You will see that it says it's soft assert. This is the method name, and it said this method is passed. The reason why this is the nature of soft assert. Soft assert ignore the fail. If your method assertion is still fail, it will say it's passed. The reason why it wants to execute your next line after your assertion code. So your compiler come to here and it can execute. So it's executed. So it's supposed to print this soft assert was executed. You will see somewhere soft assert was executed. So this line got executed. It's still, even though the method was failed, because it's ignore this assertion. Okay, so it's by default your soft assert always will be passed. It will ignore your assertion code, and it will, so that it's moved to the next code and it can cover your next code execution. But in real life we don't want this. We want to cover your whatever the code you have after the assertion, but we want to also make sure if it's a fail, it says it's a fail, and if it's a pass, it says it's a pass. So let's see our another method in hard assert. So how the hard assert, guys, are you following with me? I know
yeah.
I hope it's not too complex. It's a very simple concept. When we'll come make both of them together, you'll say very simple. So I'm just giving you description over here, the difference between the soft assert and hard assert, and in which one you are going to use. You will see it depends on you. Mostly we're going to use the combination soft assert, but we want to use that part to make sure that it's cover the assertion. To do this, we have to use one more line. We'll see this. Okay, but you can use hard assert too. If you don't have any other line after the assertion, you can easily use hard assert. That's fine. Let's see the example of hard assert. So let's make another method, test method, and say public void and say hard assert method. So just this is the name again, and here I will say similar type of things. So in a hard assert, I don't have to create any object of the class. That's the another difference. In a hard assert, you are going to directly call the method, like assertTrue, assertEquals. You are going to call directly that method, because in a hard assert, that's class, it's already built in inside the TestNG library, and those are all the methods are it's a public, as all the method and class are public as well as static. So you can directly call your class name dot method name. So your class name would be just assert dot any method you are going to use. So you don't have to create an object of the class, as unlike we did in soft assert. So say I'm going to just do some printing a statement similar like this. Here we'll see hard assert. Method was started, and then I'm going to false, similar for this. I will do same. We'll say this is assert assert dot. So assert, this is the hard assert class, you can say. Okay, you don't have to create an object in hard assert. So you just call the direct class name, and then you call any method. You can see this, all the methods listed, it shows over here. So similarly, all the same methods, we can call the same method, assert.assert, say true, the same one. It's the same method we're going to use, and then here we're going to false it. So it will be fail. Okay, it will be fail. Let's see, run it, save it, and then run it. Let's see what happened. So now, if you say, here is the interesting part. So now it's saying, report is saying, you total test run 2 and one failure. One failure. Which one is fail? Let's see up. Here you can see still your soft assert is saying it's a pass, but your hard assert, this is the hard assert method, it's saying it's failed. You see, because it's the hard assert true, the condition is always expected true, but I pass false. Okay, so it's intentionally I made it fail. But same thing I did in a soft assert, but it didn't consider as a fail, because soft assert always ignore your assertion so that it can execute your next line. That's what it did. It says in the soft assert was executed, it was, here is a printing statement from the soft assert. But now if I put the same method, same line in the hard assert, so I would say hard assert, we'll see the interesting part now. Now, over here, this part is fine. That's what we want. We want to make sure that if it's a fail, test case is throw an error. It says that, okay, this method got failed. But what the problem of hard assert, if you have failed, if your method is failed, the next line will not be considered, will not execute. It will ignore next of the line in the same method. If you have any other method, it will jump on those new test method, but the code inside the same method will be ignored. That's what we don't want. Let's see if we save it. Let's run it. Let's run it again. 2 and failure 1, which is the hard assert. We know this is the hard assert. So this is the soft assert executed. This is the print statement in soft assert, but you will see the hard assert was executed. There is nowhere you can see that hard assert, this print statement is, there's nowhere. It should be here, but it should be here, but it's not there, because so we have seen the before line, before printing statement, hard assert method was started, like hard assert method was started, but executed, this line is missing, because if we use the hard assert, and if the method gets failed, it's ignore rest of the code in your same method. That's the problem. So we want this one, like it will send a report, but we want to make sure if there are any other code left over in the same method, it gets executed too. So that it means in hard assert, your compiler will get stuck. After it's failed, it will be over here. It will not move to next line of the same method. It will jump to the new test method if you have. So to overcome this kind of issues, you can use in your soft assert. There's another what called just method. It's called here in your soft assert. Now in your soft assert, you can use the soft assert if you have more line. If you have more line in the same code, same method, and your test case gets fail, or even fail or pass. If it's a pass, it's nice. It will always say pass. But if it's a fail, you want to make sure it's report as a fail, as well as it's execute rest of the code. To do this, you can use soft assert. In soft assert, at the end, you are going to, so after all the rest of the code, when it's done, your last line, you are going to call another method. It's called assertAll. So you use your object reference dot, you can say assertAll, the first one, assertAll. So call this method and then save it. Now you'll see. We'll run it. Now it will say it's 2 ran and failure 2, because now this soft assert now is considered this one. It's execute this code and it says it's failed. You can see over here. One is failed hard assert. So we know this is the hard assert failed. And then another one, if you come down, failed your soft assert. This method is saying now is considering as a fail. Okay, and also it's failed, and also after that this code also get executed. So soft assert was executed. It should be here. Soft assert was executed. Okay, so that's the solution. So if you have a more line in the same test cases after the assertion code, to make sure it gets it's give you the exact report, either pass or fail, as well as gets execute the rest of the code. That time you can use soft assert and call assertAll method at the end. But if you don't have any other line like this in your in your test cases, if you don't have any other line after the assertion code like this, if you don't have that time, you can easily use the hard assert, because hard assert will come will give you the report either pass or fail, but it will not execute. So if you don't have the code, you don't have to worry. Okay, so that's the difference between your hard assert and soft assert. Is that clear? Make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Right, so if you go now day one, now you will understand this part. So in this part, in day one, we had another method. I give a name fail test method, just to it makes sense by the name. That's okay. I'm using this method just to do some assertion as a fail. So this is I did a print, and then I use the hard assert. You can say this is your assert. That's the class of the hard assert dot assertTrue, and then I pass a false. So I intentionally made it fail so that I can see it's failed. But if I would have another line of code, I wouldn't use the hard assert. That time I would use soft assert. So to do the soft assert, I have to create an object of the soft assert class, and then use the object reference and call the method whatever you need to do. Okay, and at the end I would use assertAll method. Right? So that's the pretty much about the assertion. Right now, say you can use anything else, any other methods, right? You can use, where is this? So in here you may use, or here you can use, say your assert dot, say assertEquals. Okay, assertEquals, say maybe character or a string or integer, right? So whatever, you know, you have the data, actual data, based on your actual data, string, say. So if you use assertEquals, so you have a two part, actual, expected. So you should have a value for your actual, right? Your actual. So assume that you know that you have the, you already find out your value of the actual, and you know the what is the expected, right? So you do the code to get the actual, and you know the expected. So you pass that at the end, and then you run. It will tell you if it's a match. Automatically it will tell you this test case got passed or failed. Make sense? So that's the way we're going to use assertion, you know, to do our comparison in your test method at the very end to determine whether this test case is a pass or fail. Clear, right? We'll do real life example. So hopefully that time, you know, I don't have to explain this assertion again and again. So please go through either this video or, you know, as I said, we have complete this video in YouTube for this assertion in our channel. You will find it. I think you will find it somewhere. This is it. What is assertion? It's under the Selenium practice. Okay, Selenium practice, the channel. I mean, for our Code and Box Automation Live channel. Over here, playlist is Selenium practice, and there you will find, you know, assertion. What is TestNG Assertion in automation? How to use it. So you can watch anytime, as well as I'm recording this video, so you can see, you know, later on. So that's the assertion. Okay, guys. So we have one more thing is remaining as a part of TestNG, which is called listener. That's another new topic. It's called listener. So to understand the listener, it's called the listener. I think I will consider to do this listener on next class. Just before we do this class, I mean next class for a listener, I just want to give you some idea about the base class. So when you're going to create a framework in a real life framework, that time real framework is nothing. It just give you the, you know, more comfortable, more different way to organize your test cases and give you more central control. Central control, it means, say, you know, you have a code in your, like, you have a locator for an object, like drop down button, okay, drop down option, and you have a code for this, and you use this object, say 5 different or 10 different test cases. Just try to, you know, think about it. So you have a object, drop down object, and you locate that object, and you use this object 10 different test cases. You know, this object is related in 10 different test cases for some reason. So tomorrow, and you locate that object and you wrote the code, and so 1 week later, you know, your developer, some reason, there's a new update happen, they move that object, they move that drop down option, you know, locator from one place, from the same place or whatever it was in your page, from there to another locator, you know, maybe the same page or maybe different page, or maybe down, or they change it, you know, from one place to another place. So as a test automation developer, what do you have to do? So you use the same object 10 different test cases. So you have to locate this object, find the new locator, new path, and go all the 10 test cases, and you update the, you know, your test code as per with the new locator, with the new path, isn't it? Are you agree with me? Right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's very simple. This will always happen. because when developer there's a new version is come up, they will break the systems. I mean, they will move the systems, they will update your object, they will change the color. It will always happen. And as a test, because they don't think about the test developer, they think about in terms of their new release, and which is makes bigger benefits for the customer. And also they update the stuff as per customer requirement, customer needs. So but as a test developer, you have to sync with their change. Your code have to change or update. That's one of the big part, update or maintenance your code as per the new change. So if you use the same object 10 different test cases, and you have to go each and every individual test case and update the code, that's not a smart way to do. What if you use 20 or 50 test cases same object? That's not efficient or smart way to do. Framework, it should be that way to build your automation framework, have to be built that way, so that doesn't matter how many object, how many times is change, you will need a central control where you are going to if it's a change even 5 times and it's used 20 different test cases, you will change one place, it will reflect each and every other test cases wherever it's used. That should be a smart way to do. You will just change one place, and it will automatically update if you use the same element 10 different test cases, 20 different test cases, so you don't have to worry there. So that's the one of the smart way to build your framework, and that's one of the necessary to build your framework. It means you need some central control. To do this, we build our framework in such a way so that we have no dependency. For everything would be central control, and without it, no dependency. That's why we'll create a lot of separate class, separate methods, and everything will be independent. So one of the to build your framework such a way, one of the very common thing we do, it's called the base class. In your framework, in a real life, you will see every framework, they have a setup class or called base class. More familiar with the base class. Base class is a class where you are going to put all of your common information, all the common utilizing method up there that can be used anywhere and can be used again and again. So if you have some methods that or some information that you are going to use, you can use or can maybe use anywhere in other classes, other methods, so that you don't have to write the same code again up there. Other than you put all the common reusable method in one class, and then wherever you need, you just call that method and use up there. And if something changed for that that related in the code in that related method, you just change in your base class, specifically that method code, it will be automatically reflect each and everywhere wherever you use the same method. You don't have to worry, because you are calling that method just by the name, right? So your actual code in one class, so you change in over here, it will be reflect up there, because there is no change required on there where you use this method, because you call that by the method name. There is no actual code in one place. So base class is such a class. It's one of the common class where we dump all the methods that reusable methods and common usable stuffs. What's the common usable stuffs? Your driver information. What driver you are going to use, your driver information. Like at the very beginning, when we did the exercise, a rough exercise, that we put all the set property stuffs, your driver key, and then your path of the driver, and then your relation between your web driver and Chrome driver class, and then all those things, common things. So you can create one method. So you can create, as I said, one separate class with one of the method would be initialize driver, another method could be some other reusable tags, more methods, some utilities class methods in the same class, and you can call them those methods anywhere in your framework wherever you are going to use. So you don't have to write the same code again and again, because every time you are going to when your one class is going to be launched and run the method, you have to run those things individually. Like when you learn the individual all of the exercise, every time we have to write the same code at the beginning of your class. We don't want to do this, right? If anything change over here, say your path is going to change, so every place you put this code, every classes at the beginning, you have to change everywhere. That's what we don't want. We don't want to do this. So we want to put in a central place where if it's a change your path, anything got changed, we'll just change one place and it will be reflect everywhere, because everywhere we just call the method by the name, nothing else, the raw code in one place. Okay, that's called more centralized, and the that's one of the reason people you'll see that they create a lot of base class. It's called the base class. They use called helper class, wrapper class, that's replicate the code again and again. This is the concept. So we'll see the base class. So we'll just learn the base class, very simple things. It's very simple things. We we already write just now. It's a little bit, the concept is a little bit different, but the same code we already wrote. Okay, so what do you have to do? Say let me the code, and let me go. So you will create a class name is called base class. So I just give it a name over here, base 1 class. Since I have already base class, so I give it different name, but it's a base class. Okay, here your one of the common method would be initialize driver. The method name is I give initialize driver, which is make more sense because the code is going to be related inside this method all about your driver. So I will say public void, then initialize initialize driver, driver, and then this is my method name, and then let's put that here. I will put the code as I do have all those things, just driver related code. So I'm just copying paste. You all know, right? System.set property, this is the key of my Chrome driver if it's a Chrome, and then this is the path of the Chrome driver where it's located, and then web driver, this interface between web driver and Chrome driver, all those common things you already know. And this driver get, this is my URL, and that's the implicitly wait. I'm just putting implicit wait, that's too much.
Sure. So question: if I put the same code in a TestNG class, it doesn't work, right?
TestNG class. What do you mean TestNG class?
Like like when we create a TestNG class with those test attributes.
Those day 1, day 2, all those things.
Yeah, like that.
If you put this code up there.
Yeah, this code.
Yeah, it will work. Why not?
I don't know, for some reason, like I can't. The imports were not working. I don't know why. Looks like I didn't save that code, but
but this is not efficient way to use those code in your TestNG individual those classes.
I see.
Because that's a decentral, but we want to make sure centralized our code. Right, that's the common. That's why we create a common class where we're going to use, create a separate method and put all the reusable stuff again and again inside a different methods. And then whenever we need, we're going to just call any one of the classes wherever we need the method.
I see.
So we're not going to use that's not that. So then if we have to write the same code in our individual all of the classes, it's the same repeating things we're doing, and execution time will be more and then it's not efficient, because if you will say change anywhere, you have to go all the classes and everywhere you have to change. That's not efficient way to do, and that's not the framework. The framework have to be very dynamic. So it have to be just change one place, it will be reflect everywhere, and that's where we're going to. Okay, there is a concept to build a framework as a dynamic way. It's called page object pattern that I'm going to start on next class. I will explain that design first, how is going to be the framework design based on the page object pattern concept. Then we will build a framework with our one actual code with actual application with the Maven. That's another build project management tool we're going to use, and then that will be end-to-end one complete explanation. Build a framework based on Maven, based on page object pattern, using all the the concept we have learned in TestNG. All the different annotation we're going to use in different test class, in different test method, and then we'll see how we can run everything from your XML file. And there will be another file for Maven. There will be another file that's called pom.xml file, and that pom.xml file will have the connection with the XML file. So you can just run pom.xml file, it will trigger your TestNG XML file, and TestNG XML file will have the knowledge, all of the classes, all of the methods, which one will go run first, which one will go later, everything. So it means it will trigger whole framework just by one click from one page. Okay, we'll see from the next class. I don't want to tell too much advanced because I will explain you the framework first, the design level, and then move on. But those all concepts we're going to use up there. So that time I'm not going to explain the TestNG again, where I use the TestNG, what is the meaning of different annotation. I will hoping that you will able to understand those things, because I will put more focus on the framework building, the designing concept, and using some real life code. Okay, so here the base, we'll use the base class on there. So that's why I'm giving you in advance information about the base class, and also I need this base class to explain you the listener. The listener is the last features in TestNG that we're going to learn, and I will explain you what is the listener. I'll just give you the definition of why we need the listener and how important these features to use in your framework. But before that, I just want to confirm that you understand the base class. So this is your base class. Here is all the information. Let's import the package. org WebDriver, import the WebDriver, and time unit. Okay, so that's your, so here at the end, what I am going to do, I will just return. So I use, so who's doing all those things? So this is the information about your driver, and then this is the driver. So this driver, right, the object reference of the driver over here, this is the actual driver exe file that will do all this. Will maximize the window, doing all, open this application, and will hold, this hold will apply to the global level for all of the driver use driver.findElements method. So who's doing everything is the driver, right? So if I want to, because I'm going to call this method in other classes wherever I need. So if I want to call, so what's this method doing? It's this method is doing all those things. By who? I need a return. So I will return driver. I will return driver. So now this driver return this same driver dir. So this driver this driver is doing all the things. So driver have the knowledge, have the permission to do all those things, and this driver will return, it means it goes to your method. So this method have the knowledge about this driver, and this driver have the knowledge about all the tags. So when you call this method anywhere, it means this method knows that it will do all this job by a driver. So you're returning driver, but you said you return, this is your, remember, if you return anything in a method, your return type should match with your method return type, right? So you're returning driver. So driver is a this driver is a return type is a web driver. This driver is a web driver, right? but you say your method return type is void, so that's why it's have a error. So you have to change it. So if you if you move over here, if you move return is rain, it's driver, right? Is it the same? Okay, your return driver, so it should, so let's return this one is going to be web driver. So it should be your driver, its type is web driver. So rename y. So what happened? Then return type. Okay, create return type. Okay, no, that's not the driver. So return driver, so your driver return type is a web driver. Okay, it's not, some reason it's not showing it's a web driver, but it's this return, this driver is nothing, is a web driver, right? This is like this is the web driver. So you move this one to your return type is a web driver. So if you save it, why it's not return?
Should be spelling mistake.
Yeah. R.
Oh, okay. Yes, redu. So that's why. Oh. So okay. So now it's match. Okay, it will match. It will automatically. You'll see. Let's move back to void. Void, and then if you return driver, so do you driver type is, you can see it's saying over here, change method return type to web driver, because you're returning a driver and driver type is web driver, but you're saying that should match with your methods return type. So but your method return type you said is void. Now it's asking you to change it to web driver. So now you move to the web driver. So now your method have the knowledge about this driver who have the permission to all these tags. So if you call this method, it will do this exactly the same job anywhere you are going to call this method, right? And and this method is public, that's why you have to keep it public so that you can use anywhere other places, right? And to make it more global, you can just make it, now let's make this driver as a public variable. This one, let's say I'm saying public. You can make your variable also public. So what was your driver? This variable is a driver. I'm just making that public, and it's return type. Remember, I'm just declaring a variable. So this variable declaring over here the driver, and that's a return type. We know it's a web drive or type is web driver, right? And then you can make this one more public static. So your driver, now you make this driver this driver also you declare, like you declare something like public, say integer a. Similarly, this is a variable. Similarly you declare a for a, you declare a variable, and this is return type instead of integer. This is, since this is the driver, it's return type, so web driver. And then you make this one not only public with the static. Remember, static keyword in Java we use. If you have a variable or method, any method with a static keyword, it means you can directly call that variable or that method by your class name dot your that variable or method name. If would this method like public static initialize driver, so you can call this method anywhere, any other place by the class name. What's your class name? base1 dot initialize driver. It will be automatically come. You don't have to create an object of that class up there and then use the object reference. That's the one way. But if you make it in a very static, your variable or method, you can directly call that variable or method by the just class name dot your variable or method name. Directly it will be usable. That was the benefit to use a static keyword. So I will make it your driver is static, so that I can directly call even without creating an object of this base class. This is the benefit of using static. So anyway, so I create the driver variable, and then I pass the same driver over here. The same driver is here and it's returning there. Okay, so whenever I need this class, I am this method, I can just easily call that method up there, and it will be do the job everywhere. That's one of the thing. People create a lot of other utilities method over here. It's like reusable method. You'll see example, say your framework should be such a way that if your test case is failed, any test method is failed from any classes, if the method is failed, you can not only it's a test method, the failing method, even a pass method. If you want to return some statement, because this is your log, right? So this is your log, your result log, and you are going to see your log to see your report. That's give you the clue if any method is passed, how many method is passed, how many method is failed. So if any method is passed, if you want to get any printing statement, say this method was passed by the method name and it was passed, you can this will give you the clue that okay, this method, all this method got passed. You can print any statement or pass any statement. Similarly, if the more important is failing method, if any method gets failed, we not only want to know the method, what method got failed, but also we want to get some screenshot. That's very helpful to define that where the method exactly got failed from your what exactly the web element it was failed. And so if you get the screenshot, that's gonna be give you very helpful right away. You see, okay, there's a two method was failed. You can see reports two method got failed, and then this screenshot will save somewhere in your machine or in the same project in a folder, and then you go to that folder and you just see the screenshot right away. You will understand exactly what page, what element it got failed. Isn't it? It's going to be very efficient, right? So when you have a whole exercise complete end-to-end testing, screenshot is going to be very interesting, especially for failing method, failing test cases, right? To define, to do those kind of things, TestNG have another concept, another features is called listener. Okay, listener is another interface. Listener is another interface class where it implements if you have an interface class, it means it has some method without a body definition. I believe you can recall those Java concept, right? If you have an interface class, it means it will have some methods inside the code, inside the class. You will have some method like WebDriver, right? So WebDriver is an interface class. It has all the method without a body definition. That's why we have to make a relationship with Chrome driver or Firefox driver where all the body definition explained inside the same type of method, have that explanation, the code inside there. So listener is such kind of class in TestNG, interface type of class where it has some methods, default methods, like you will see. Those are the default methods. You have to implement this listener. So listener always implementation depends on another class. Like WebDriver, implementation depends on Chrome driver class or Firefox driver class or IE driver class, right? We have seen, right? That's why WebDriver we have to make a relationship with another class. This is called implementing class, like where the method inside this WebDriver have the body definition, the same method you have in another class with the body definition, right? And similarly, listener is a class. Listener is a class in TestNG where it needs to implement some of the class, and those class have the the body or some of the codes related with those method you have in listener. So implementing class is one of the classes called iTestListener, and it has some the method, the by default method. It's like you will see those are the by default method, like on start method. We're not going to do this today. Just I'm giving you just heads up idea, and next class we will do it. So one of the method is comes by default method without a body definition, on test start, on test success, on test failure, then on test skip. So all the methods, it comes method's name, it's already created type, and just the body is empty, there's nothing inside. So it's give you the freedom, like whatever the body you want to put, you can put your code. It means if you on test start, when it's start, execution is started, all of, if you want to put any code over here, like any printing statement, anything you want to do, that will give you output in your console or on your log, that okay, when on test start, it's cover all the class, all the test cases in different classes. On test success, when it's all the test cases will pass, it will, after the every test cases that got pass or success, you want to say something. Okay, so it's up to you what you want, what type of code you wanna put inside. That's why the body definition is empty, so that you can write your code as per the way you want. So what the listener does, the listener comes with just some the concept is listener comes with just some method. Its job is this listener will listen. By the name of the call, it's listener. It means its job is it will listen all the methods you have in different classes in your test framework, in your project, and it will trigger, it will listen and will do some job. So what kind of job? It's up to you. You have to declare, okay, when, if you put any code, say example on test method inside up there, it will listen, this method job will listen all the test cases got success, got passed. And if you say, okay, do something, every of the test cases after it is passed, whatever you want to tell, you want to do, you have to write the code inside. Similarly, another method is called on test failure. This is the one of the important method that we use for the listener class. So on test failure, this method, this method job will listen all the, it will track or will listen all the method, those methods got failed. And if you want to say anything to do, after those method got failed, whatever you want to say. So if you say, okay, every method after it's failed, you print some statement like test failed and the name of the test cases. Whatever the test case, like test method was failed, you want to see the method name. So every method will get failed, it will print this statement, and it will also can give you the name of that method. You can do this. Or if you say, okay, whatever the method got failed, I want to have a screenshot of that method. You can do this one too. So you have to write the actual code that code will take the screenshot and put somewhere, wherever you want to say, create a folder and put somewhere, and if there is a and this method will always track all the, will listen all the event. When any method gets failed, it will take the screenshot and it will save for you wherever you want to save. Okay, it will do. And later on you report, okay, 5-10 methods got failed, you go to the folder and you see the report. Okay, you see the screenshot. That will give you some visualize concept right there. Okay, in application, what page where it got failed. So that's so similarly it is all of other. If any method got skipped, you will see that in a report there's a skip part 2. So right now there is no method got skipped, but sometimes there is some methods will get skipped in real life, or you want to skip some of the method intentionally. Like the reason why you want to ignore those methods, maybe those method related page have some issues, known issues, and developer is working on those issues, until they fix it. You want to ignore related test cases, but you don't want to delete the code, because after they fix it, you have to cover testing, you have to test cover for those pages too, or those element too. So you want to skip for now. So if you want to skip, and you want to do something over here, you can pass some message. Okay, this method got skipped. You can get the skip information. So this method will look after your skipping methods, all the methods. So similarly, it has a lot of other methods. The people, it's whatever you want to do, you can do it. And you have to just write the code inside the method as per your requirement. So that's the listener interface does, and it's a part of TestNG. Okay, and how it's going to work, how we'll learn in next class how you can take some screenshot in and write the code inside this on test failure. We'll see on also success. Just we'll print some message, very simple message, how we can use those stuff, those method in listener. We'll see in the next class. Okay, just some some in advance some information I give you. So that will be the last part we're going to cover from the listener, and moving forward then we'll start move to the testing Maven, as well as I will explain you some of the designing concept for the building a framework, end-to-end framework. Okay, so I think that's all. We're going to have a little bit short class today, so that's all for today. Everyone, are you okay with this?
Yeah, this question, Shoko. I was going through the notes, and it said something about different types of frameworks. What types of frameworks are we going to cover in the class?
This we're going to cover. It's called TDD. TDD is it's a test development, design development framework. There's a lot of other types of frameworks, like BDD. It's a behavior-driven framework, which is using Cucumber, the different tools. But this is all. Our framework would be TDD, test-driven development framework. Test-driven development framework is more skill you need to design your framework, and it's the way you want. This needs a little bit more skill. That's why this is one of the best one that give you the freedom the way you want to write your code or design or develop your framework. But BDD, it has our behavior driven. It is a little bit easier framework. A lot of companies they use. But if you understand TDD, you will be comfortable anywhere, any types of framework. That shouldn't be a problem. So this is the toughest one, the TDD framework. Okay, and we'll learn tomorrow. From the next class we'll start that.
So is data driven, keyword driven, and are these part of TDD?
Yes, that's a part of TDD. Like we already seen the data driven in TestNG classes, exercise. Remember, that's like we passed the this parameterization. That's part of data driven. That we're passing your data and you're fetching the data from separate places to your test classes. So that's that. And we'll also learn in the from framework when we're going to do the end-to-end framework. We'll pass even those data in a notepad. There will be separate place. There will be notepad in your framework, and we'll pass all the information, your URL, your username, password, all the common information in notepad, and from the notepad we'll fetch the data and we'll pass anywhere wherever we need. You will see. Okay, that would be the actual data driven example. Okay, so all those, the parameterization or fetch the data from separate files, that's the part of your data driven framework. So we're going to use data driven framework based on TDD using page object pattern concept. That will be our framework information. Just for now, when you will do it, you will get used to, and you will get understand all the meaning of that. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I will give you, since this week had a little bit heavy stuff, so I will say please go through all the materials that we have, the videos, do the exercise, and try to get to have all the concept in the deep drive in your mind, so that when you are going to use, you can understand, okay, where this concept comes from. You can definitely, you are welcome to ask any questions, but we don't want to get back to those classes and again explain all those things that we have covered. That's why I covered all the steps first, in described in theoretically, as well as explain you some example, so that when you are going to use in our framework, you understand the concept of where it comes from. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so please go through the steps. You will have another week. Just make sure that you get all the steps up and up to date with the class. And also go through the base class, as I said. Just base class is nothing, it's very simple, but it's going to be more information in this base class. You'll see I will create another method. There will be more method out there too. Okay, but that's the concept. Okay, so we'll cover the listener, start with the listener next class, and then I will explain you the framework design first, how the design is, so it's going the framework will build, and then moving forward based on the design, I will explain you, we'll build our framework and end-to-end framework. Okay, so I think that's all for today, and I will see you in next week.